Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Slade on Slade. This is my beautiful wife, Leslie. I am Keith, and today we're going to be talking about my absolute favorite book. I am Dracula. But first, I'm going to have to show my own book. The House of Ribbons will be due out sometime in mid-2021. Book 2 is already at the editor right now, and everything's going pretty good. So, on with the show.
Do you have your book?
Of course I do. It's right here. This is my second copy of this book. As you can tell, it's very well worn. This has been 6, 7 different countries with me. My original book, what happened to it?
Oh, all the pages came out.
Yep. I lent it out and I read it so many times that it dogged up the spine. So I got this one and it's kind of like my lucky book.
Yep. My first, I'm going to give you a summary of the book. So, I Am Dracula is about a story about how will you take this seriously? Take those out.
Fine. You know, these were a pain in the ass to get in my mouth in the first place.
How big is your mouth?
I don't know. It's like, I think Steven Tyler might be my dad. It was a bit of a problem getting them in, but oh well. They glow in the dark. These things glow in the dark are really cool.
So back to this. This is about the how Dracula became the vampire Dracula.
This book is written by C. Dean Anderson.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. An amazing human being, an amazing writer. He also wrote a slew of other books. So I'm going to let my wife do the short, spoiler-free summary of the book because her voice is prettier than mine.
So, I Am Dracula is a story about how the young Dracula became the vampire Dracula. When Dracula was very young, his father burned his mother at the stake for being a witch. When he was 9, his future wife, Sagat,
yeah.
I said that right?
I think we're saying that right. It's a Google translation. I'm not 100% sure. If we're saying that right, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know how to say that name until about 2 years ago, until I finally got a brilliant idea to throw it into Google Translate. So I believe it's Sagat. You can.
Sagat was a witch who came to see who her true husband was going to be when she grew up. So, a few years later, Dracula was traded to be a political prisoner at the Turkland.
And so Turkland? No, to the Turks.
To Turkland. In Turkland.
It's not Turkland.
That's what it said in the book.
Really? The Turkish lands. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a history buff, so I'm weird about words.
So would not attack Dracula's father. So during that time, he was tortured, and then he finally gained their trust.
He befriended them.
So that he could take over his own army to take over his hometown and castle back from the person that took it over from his father and killed him.
Try not to give any spoilers, what?
And his brother. Well, you have to.
Oh, okay.
So one night when he comes back to his homeland, Sagat comes and visits him, but not after he raises his father and his brother. And so Sagat takes his father and his brother's wife, who brought them back to life to be vampires, and takes them to the living quarters of the vampires. So at that time, she asks him to come visit her in her cottage. And at that time, he falls in love with her, and he goes and visits her, and they stay a couple of months, I believe. And then they come back, and she comes back with him, but he is the only one that can see her.
Yeah, because she's invisible.
Yeah.
She's got that cool spell.
Yeah.
So it's a cool book. She has to do, because if I give this, I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to throw up all this information. I'm going to spoil the book, and I'll probably get kicked in the face by Dean. So I'm trying to hold back.
And then one day, Sagat has a vision that the castle is going to fall to the previous person.
Previous regime.
Yes. And so they leave and go to Scone, I believe it is. Skolomas?
I believe it's pronounced Skolomas.
Skolomas.
Skolomas. which is, I don't want to say it's a training camp, but it's an area covered by perpetual clouds. And so it's a hidden valley, so to speak, I believe. And that's where, those with power are inclined to go train.
Yes. And then so they go there to finish their training. And so that Sagat can become a vampire. But she does not tell him that until they actually arrive the day.
Yeah, because he's kind of opposed to that.
He
just
definitely hates vampires.
Yeah. He just doesn't, he's opposed to. Well, don't forget, there's a religious overtone. He doesn't, it kind of crosses the border of it's almost a sin against God to do this. And the way Dean wrote it was really, really good. He didn't make him whiny like when you're watching a vampire movie. The guy's like, "Oh, I hate this. I don't want to do this because..." No. He played it. It's just like he stuck to his guns, and he had a really good reason for it.
And so while they're there, she learns he wants to leave because he hates the fact that she has become a vampire. But then when he sees her rise out of the water, he falls in love with her.
Well, do you remember why he hates the fact?
Yes,
he hates the fact because he thinks that when she dies, she won't be her anymore. And I mean, a beautiful woman is a beautiful woman, but what is the individual if you take the soul, so to speak, out? And he was afraid that when she lost her soul, because that's what he was afraid of, that she wouldn't be her anymore, and then he would essentially lose the person he has now grown very, very deeply close to. I would definitely say he's in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nerve-wracking for him.
Yes. So after she becomes a vampire, they spend I want to say another 2-3 years at the location.
Skull and Mass.
And she tells him of the prophecies that he needs to know at the time.
Yep, because he's been chosen.
Yes. And one day when they do leave the Scolonis, correct?
I can't remember.
They are leaving and they go see that their final place, Count Dracula's castle, as you can see on the cover of the book.
Yeah, right here. Well, that's just his throne.
Oh.
You know they're going to see this backwards, right?
It's okay. So they go there, and at that time, they go and get, he takes the kiss of death, but he doesn't die. He just gets extra powers. So he'll be able to heal faster. And wherever Sagat is not, he can be, because he has to be out during the day to fulfill his prophecy of being the warrior of the people. So so they spend 2 years there training to be alone, with very little help from servants. And then once that is done, they go to Moldavia and starts his journey there because his mother's cousin, I believe it is, lives there.
Yeah, I think so.
So at that time, he
I think he's the governing body. I believe. I'm probably wrong.
He fulfills his prophecy, and as the warrior of the people, and then
he's winning the hearts and minds.
Yep. 26 years later is when they return to the castle and fulfill the prophecy, and this is where Dracula becomes a vampire, and he also becomes the chosen king of Satan. And at that time, Satan has given him the power to be able to walk in sunlight, and he said not to give it to anybody else, but he said but Sagat can be one of the other people that get it, because she has been a true follower of Satan and fulfilled his prophecy.
I like that Dean put that in, because you often see vampires depicted as like to just burst in the sunlight, burst in the flames in sunlight, and then you see how Dracula doesn't. But then so far, you don't see him when he creates his offspring. They burst in the flame. It wouldn't make any sense to me that this would not pass. I like that Dean wrote it as it is an ability that can be gifted to somebody. Like, I'm going to turn you into a vampire, but I can also gift you the ability to walk in the sunlight. I like that. I thought that was genius on his part.
So they do that, and then the first night they go hunting, and at that time, they find a family, and the husband is abusing the wife and the children, and they feed upon them, and then they leave, and at that time, they're flying back to the castle, and Sagat is taken from him, and all of his memories is taken.
Oh, you're getting into spoiler territory.
I'm almost done. So, here's where I want to leave it is, will he get her back or will he remember?
That's good. Yeah, it's good. No, this is where you're going to ask me, like, hey.
So here's our little question and answer part. You're going to ask me, and then you're going to answer, and then I'm going to answer.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
So what is your favorite part of the book?
I got to be honest, I don't have a particular favorite part of the book. I first read this book about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years after it first came out. It was given to me as a gift from a friend. I was not into vampires at all. I read whatever Anne Rice books were out by, 97. And, vampires, it's an okay idea, but this is the first book that made me like vampires. Like I said, I don't have a favorite part. I think it was so streamlined. The book wasn't too big, it wasn't too small, and for me, it hooks me in. I bet I've read this book 2-3 dozen times, without exaggeration. It's just so streamlined. It's just like that movie that you put in and you can't stop watching. I think he did everything. I think he did everything right. I mean, it didn't leave me asking too many questions. It made me happy. It made me sad. It was, for me, the total entertainment package when it comes to reading a book. And I am mainly a sci-fi reading guy. So especially then, I was big Isaac. Oh, I'm still a big Isaac Asimov fan. But this book was just, it was one of those things where I love the love story. I think this is a love story that should not be overlooked. I think it made me want to be a writer. I wrote a book. Well, I wrote the 5 books in the House of series because I wanted to be like this writer. And this isn't the only book I've read of his. Everything I've read so far, he's just got this way. He grabs hold of me and says, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you read another couple of chapters?" And I love that about him. I can only hope I am a tenth of what Dean is when it comes to writing, because of the way he is captivated. So I'd have to say the whole book is my favorite. I love the love story. It's just so believable. And I don't want to knock on Bram Stoker's Dracula, but what I don't like about Bram Stoker's Dracula is you created this character, and in your story, and then he just gets killed off in such an unsavory way.
So my favorite part of the book is kind of like what you said. I love the love story. I loved how they fell in love. I love how she was only his for the longest time. And I love the fact that he trusted her enough to follow her anywhere.
He trusted her implicitly. Yeah.
And he loved her enough to change his mind about becoming a vampire so that he could live the rest of his life with her. You would recommend this book to somebody else?
Anybody. I've given this, how many times do you think I've given this?
A lot.
When she says a lot, I've probably given this book off 3 or 4 times. When I met her in country, I had another copy because I have my copy to read. But because of my very first copy, it got so messed up lending it out to people, I had a lend out copy. And I joked around and said, I only date girls who are smart enough to really delve into a book I like. And when we met in Baghdad, and when she left that copy, she had actually taken this copy. And I was like, because I had my favorite bookmark in at the time. And I saw her probably a week later, she had the book read. She was quoting parts of the book. Okay. And that was the night we connected. So we actually connected over my favorite book. So years later. This is 2004. No. It's 2006. I Need a Mind on a Woman, and my wife clearly showed that by thieving up my book on me. Thank God I saw her again. I would have been super pissed if I didn't see that again.
So that is all we have for you today. That being said, if you like our content, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button below.
Yep, as you can tell, we have a YouTube channel, and I'm just trying to raise a little awareness for my book. I will be doing, we're going to do another book for I Am Frankenstein. Remember, C. Dean Anderson. I'm going to put a little photo list up here of books, and I'm also going to drop his, I think it's his Amazon information. I got a bunch of information for you for Dean Anderson, so that you can be able to go and buy his stuff. And like I said, read one book, and I can almost guarantee you're going to want to read another one. This is a writer who should be paid attention. So I'd like to send a special shout out to Dean himself. Dean, I know you probably get this from a lot of people, and if you get a chance to watch it, thank you for being the writer that you are. I would not have tried to pen my own book if it wasn't for the books that you've written. They inspired me to want to be a writer. So whether you get this or not, I thank you, sir.